Hi everyone. Well, we only have 1 week left before the Kickstarter for My Life as a Comic Book Reader comes to a conclusion, and as you've seen, we're pretty far behind our funding goal. So I've decided to make this last video really to get as personal and talk as much as possible to try to get the final funding needed for this book in time before December 17th at 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time rolls around. Um, Despite being the holidays and everything else, there are several other Kickstarters that made funding with plenty of time to spare and everything for different projects, from film to electronics to graphic novels and everything else. As people have seen in the interviews and all that, when I originally started the story back in 2008, how long it took to write it, there was actually two more things that were actually happened during that time. Believe it or not, I actually wrote another story which was about a pet of mine who had also passed away at the time and everything. I had for a couple years. And I wrote a story about him in comic format, believe it or not, and everything else. And actually, just this recent summer, we turned it into a student film, which we were using for a lot of educational use, and book reports and a few other short stories we're using for education right now. So it was just so fantastic to see that come to life. And I always thought about donating and working for reading for people who are unable to read, and not just the other day, I actually finished my little free library for my area, because when I moved to the area several years ago, I found out several people were not able to get library cards and that. So I did start my first Kickstarter on a little free library, which came out to reality here. So seeing those two dreams come true has been pretty amazing. And I mean, especially for something that started so long ago and finally see them come to life. And as many people know, I mean, everything I've gone through the last couple of years that has led to creating my life as a comic book reader, all because of these little things right here from something I discovered when I was about 3 years old, is pretty incredible. And to be just so close now to being able to have the book almost ready to be published and taken out and everything. And the fact is, I'm just missing just the last funds needed to make the final push to get it made. And it's been quite the ride. It's definitely been the experience more than anything. I mean, I've never really officially had anything ever published or anything close to the fact that could be in that. I decided to use my backdrop for where most of my collection is stored now and everything. This is my own home and everything else. And sadly, the cliche is the basement, so here we all are. But something that's very interesting is pretty much every single of these trade paperbacks, which is similar to what we're going to go for right here for what the book would be in the end for formatting, is actually the rebuilding of my collection I sold in 2008. I have just about 2 long boxes down here from current collection from books, but about 70% of this collection, from Justice Society over here to Marvel and DC over on here, are almost complete replacements of my collection I sold in 2008, later in 2010, to take care of everything that happened back when I originally wrote the book. And actually, a large portion of the chapters I wrote for the book were written because of these here from the sell-off. I mean, you have those innocences the beginning of the story does with Blaine when you first discover books, to when you get a little older and grow up and they're not as cool, to rediscover them when you're a little older, saying, you know what, these are still cool. And then going through situations which requires you to give up something you love just to make things better for those who mean more to you. And that was another real reason why I started writing the book, was just not only what it meant to me, but just basically for the hope that lived, that would happen within this story. Because when I originally wrote it, I never thought it would ever get to where it was. I thought it was just something that helped me through the transitions back in 2008. And then when I picked it back up in 2010, with everything going on in my life at that point too, to finish and complete it. And I never thought it would be possible until about 2012, when I had my 2 coworkers create these stories, get funding, and get their books published here. And I've seen them; they're beautiful, and it's just like a long time dream coming true. And I know many people dream, and many people don't have them come true, and there are many people who it takes a long time. I mean, like I said, my little film here, my story, took 5 years. My little thing with the library was, even though I didn't know what a little library was until this past spring, I always wanted to bring community reading to people who couldn't and everything. And now I found a way for that to come true, and that's the reason why I do this story. And I just want to really see the book published. I mean, especially Natisha's artwork. You've seen it on the previews. I mean, it's incredible. She's a young student herself, and she does this to pay for school. And I mean, and a lot of the funds actually are going to go to help finishing paying for her stuff, take care of some semester at school and all that. And my other artist, Kristen, and she's done some incredible work there. She hasn't contributed too much, but not to mention the work from Jamal Eigel and Juan Castro, who I never dreamed in my life of ever working with anybody professional, especially when I first met Juan online. We used to do a podcast together. I mean, where he's come and gone and everything, and the work and artwork he has. I mean, I remember being such, when I was a teenager and I got back into books, I started trying to write comics. I had scripts, I tried doing it. And I had a little small thought of saying, well, you know what, I could always be a writer if I don't become an actor, because I wanted to be an actor when I was 18. And I did some stuff, and I sadly had to give up that because it wasn't going anywhere in life. And then I struggled and stumbled through life, which led me to writing my story. And now, I'm a teacher, and I love doing it. And one thing I love doing more than everything is not only showing creativity, but having, kids, realize their dreams and their potentials, and that they can make it through hard times and loving times and everything else. And I mean, this is a story. That's why I wanted the story to be for everyone. I wanted everybody to read this who's been thinking about that and, what got them through. I mean, I prayed many days that, that everything I went through meant something. And now that I see towards the end here with the book and everything, I now understand why I went through some of these difficult times and creating the story and everything. And that's the main reason why I want to have the book published now, so long, so many years later and so close to it. And I'm really hoping that, people are going to get on board here in the last week and, push to get this funded for the $7,000 we need. I mean, we're just at the 1,200 mark, and we're 5,800 behind right now, and we really don't have much time to go. And the holidays are coming up very quickly, and before I know it, it's going to be 7 a.m. on December 17th. This is going to be all over. And some people always say, don't worry, it'll all work out, because a lot of people do last minute. But I've also seen some projects where the people were so close they missed it by 2 backers or anything else, and they said themselves, if I was going to have this not succeed, I'd rather have it be by a large margin than a small margin. And I know this is still a large margin, but it comes so much, and my family has been so supportive on all sides here, contributing and trying to get the word out. And I've done so many interviews and so much other things, and I've emailed people, and I've talked, and I've done other podcasts and done other interviews online. And I'm just working everything to have this come true, to have this finally make it come December 17th when I wake up in the mornings before I head out the door to head to work on that morning. And I'm really praying, I'm really hoping, and I'm really just, thinking as high as possible and knowing this is all in God's hands of what's going to happen with this book. So I thank everybody who supported me in this, everything from before it ever started to where it's been now, to everybody on Kickstarter, to everybody who's ever had the dream of having this come true for them, to Jamal, to Juan for backing me up and to believing to contribute to my project, to my beautiful wife Melissa, my loving parents, my loving in-laws, sister-in-laws, brothers and sisters, and cousins, and everybody, and coworkers, and even local people downtown who've seen and have gotten the word out and have backed the project, even if it was just $2. So after this, I'm just going to see what happens. 8 days from where I'm counting right now. By the time you might watch the video, it might be 1 day, it might be 6 days. But December 17th at 7 a.m. Central Time, the Kickstarter will officially be over. So thank you, everybody, and please check it out if you haven't. Look for My Life as a Comic Book Reader. Go to Kickstarter.com, pop it in, My Life as a Comic Book Reader. Look for our cover. And thank you so much.